Kathy?
Yes, yeah, hello.
All right, we've got everybody present.
Great.
Okay, so we'll be called to order here then at 4:01. Janie, will you take the minutes?
I am taking them as we speak.
Excellent. And speaking of minutes, I just realized I wasn't able to find the ones from the January 21st meeting, which was the last one for Building and Grounds that I have record of happening.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me look. Let's see, how do I do this? View options.
You don't have to find them right now. It's not.
Okay.
That's kind of ancient history. Do we have to find them at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should. I will.
Yeah.
I will look for.
Open Meetings Act says yes, Cal.
Okay.
I will look for. Was it January?
January 21st.
Sorry, we can approve 2 sets of meeting minutes next meeting, whenever that's going to be.
Yep. Sounds good. Okay, so moving past the minutes then, since we don't, sorry, getting caught up in my own cord. Moving past the minutes, since we don't have those to approve, we really have just the one item for the Building and Grounds Committee today, which is discussing the parking lot usage. So to summarize on this, a few weeks ago, Drew Irvin, who's a village administrator, had broached to me the subject of whether the parking lot in late afternoon and evenings might be available for partial use by members of the public. So I stated and told him that I didn't know, but that I would talk with the Building and Grounds Committee and we would take it from there. Wanted to be sure that I touched base with the Building and Grounds Committee, since I'm aware, very aware, that the usage of the parking lot is an item that's come up at various times in the past. And that after discussion on at least a couple occasions, that the decision has always been to not extend that. The main difference right now is that we don't have as much staff that are in. We're not open in evenings. So we're not using all of that parking lot during the times where the access would be requested. I think the particular interest in a short-term arrangement now is due in part just to the amount of parking spots that the village is committing to outdoor dining. They all have all of block 1 blocked off, of course, and the possibility of, I believe, extending some of that to include other parking spots as things get to be a little bit more of a challenge here in terms of trying to sustain outdoor dining going on into the winter. So
thinking of putting up tents or something. Is that, I mean, I don't know how much longer we're going to have it be comfortable unless they put up those bubbles with heaters or tents or something. You know, they're going to need some. It'll be too cold.
Well, and not only that, but they can have heat lamps and everything, but once it starts snowing, people are not going to want to sit outside and be snowed upon while they eat.
Unless there's tents. I don't know, Cal, if you've seen these things that look like little igloos that some places, even last winter, and 2 winters ago, I used to see them in the city and in Evanston.
Well, they would work because at least you wouldn't have the snow landing on your plate.
Right. Now, you're talking to somebody here who, in some circumstances, would actually enjoy that experience. I know I'm weird. So who knows? But yeah, if it's windy and blustery, it's not a real pleasant experience. And so I don't know. Anyway, that's up to them, not up to us. Back to the parking thing. I'm just curious as to why. I don't know who now owns the bank property across the street from the library, but I know that there are they put up some tables there. I think Bluffington's put up some tables over there over the summer that are probably still there. Now, why is it that they got permission to do that, but they're obnoxious enough not to let anybody use the parking lot? They still have that chain across there, which just fries my buns. And there's another parking lot that is to the east of that, but everything is so overgrown that you literally, I mean, I've parked in there a whole bunch of times, but it's so overgrown that you literally scratch up the side of your car pulling in there, and it's dark as can be, no light.
But they have almost as many spaces there, I think, as we would have in the library parking lot.
I know, and so why,
Going after that.
I don't understand why either the owner of that property is so unwilling to share that space, or the village is so unwilling to ask for it.
Well, I'm not privy to the conversations that have or have not happened there in the past between the village and the owners. My understanding is that the Weilers do still own that. I don't remember the circumstances, but I had in passing asked Drew if he knew of new ownership for that earlier this year after the Weilers had moved, and his understanding is that they still own it. So I don't know. I don't know what the thought is. I don't know why they've been so committed to keeping that chain up. I kind of feel like Drew at least would have asked about potentially parking over there.
Well, Eric, excuse me, I was
I
sort
don't
of,
know.
I was
I
sort of
just
waiting
don't know.
to hear what everybody else had to say about this, because Eric and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, so I didn't want to share my thoughts until I heard from you guys. And Janie, my thinking mirrors yours all right away. I mean, the first thing I thought of was the property across the street. Couple of things. As long as I've been on the board, Kathy O'Hara has talked to me a couple of times, and Drew has brought up the parking, our parking, which is very limited, and it's not particularly easy to get back to our parking.
Exactly right.
And there was a conversation a couple of years ago where we should even give some of it up, and our staff at night should be parking at the train station. That was kind of the last straw for me in terms of acquiescing to any parking needs in the village, because I think that my experience is that the village will ask us to do just about anything, and we don't get a lot in return. The reality is the library doesn't get much in return from the village.
No, we don't.
Not understand why there's a vacant lot sitting there and occasionally it's been open. Now this summer I wasn't around much, but occasionally it was opened up during the farmer's market day, which is,
I
far as-
never saw it open during farmer's market, Kathy.
well,
once.
not this year, but in the past.
Oh, okay.
Occasionally. Now this year I wasn't around much, so I couldn't tell you. And Fridays is always the biggest parking day in Lake Bluff anyway. So in my opinion, the village, the whole outreach community, committee spirit ought to be saying, how can we solve this problem? And they did studies on this over the years. So this is nothing new. Since Eric and I talked, every time I drive downtown, I try to do a little visual intake of parking, and there has not seemed to me, aside from the noon hour, there has not been, to me, a real visible shortage that 1 or 2 parking spaces that the library has would fill. Also, when it comes to winter, well, for one thing, the parking lot's not in the best shape. We've been putting off addressing that because of possible construction and this and that and everything else. So there's always the trip and fall risk, and there's snow, which we pay or Eric, correct me, do we pay our snow removal, or the village plows our parking lot?
The village plows
The village,
that.
corrected.
The village does do that.
Okay, because what I was trying to think of, so if we were paying that, then we had the liability. So I suppose they'll pull that card on us that they won't plow if we don't give them the property. But I would remind Drew that the village president enthusiastically encouraged the library to give up parking so that our employees could park in the train station. The train station is closer to the restaurants in town for evening parking, and probably equidistant to where the library is. So that certainly is an option. And then, of course, the other is just a vacant property or parking lot right there in the center of town.
Wait a minute, where's the vacant parking lot in the center of town?
Across the street from the
Bank.
library.
What?
At the bank, Cal.
Oh, that, you're not talking about the
PNC property.
are you talking about the little parking lot that is just north of the
About the parking lot of the former bank that's directly across, the one that has the chain.
cross the PWC or whatever we called it?
Yeah.
PNC, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And there's actually 2 lots in there, Cal.
Yes, there are. Yeah.
Yeah, it wraps all the way around for.
And they use that. Well, of course they didn't this year because we didn't have the parade, but they used it at parade time. Every year they used it at parade time. It was where the handicap parking was. So if they could use it for that, I don't know why they couldn't use it at other times.
Well, I'm sure the Wileys would be very happy. They had for lease sign up for years. I'm sure they'd be happy to lease parking to the village.
Yeah.
One would think. Yeah, I don't know. My feeling, I guess, am I still the chairman of this committee?
Yeah.
Like you are.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no escape for you, Janie.
I mean, I just, my first gut reaction when I heard this is, are you kidding me? And I would love to see the businesses uptown, stay as active as they possibly can, particularly the restaurants and stuff, through as much of the winter as they can. But I cannot ignore the fact, I agree completely with Kathy. I mean, I think I have, in all the years I've lived in Lake Bluff, I think I've parked in that lot one time behind the library. And I remember, I mean, I always have these big cars too. I do admit that, but I remember thinking, wow, this is tight. And I know I've sat downstairs in the spruce room and watched people pull out and thought they were going to come right through the windows. And it's tight back there. There aren't that many spaces, and it's tricky to get out. And here's the other issue is, once we do open that up to public, even for certain hours, people are not going to look at the sign and say,
No.
oh, I can't go in there now. They're going to go in whenever they want to, because we've opened it up to the public. And so
Right.
once you do that, it's kind of like trying to get the toothpaste back in the tube. If we had a big lot, that'd be one thing, but we do not. I just kind of feel like, hey, there are other options first of all, we don't have that much to give you. And secondly, there are other more viable options if you will pursue them. Thank you very much.
I agree.
You know, I have once in a while parked in that lot because the one handicap spot was there.
Right.
And so after Donna was not employed during the week, she was only in, I think, on Sundays. If I couldn't find a spot anywhere close by, I would park in the handicap spot. And you're right, it's tight in there, and it's kind of a little bit scary backing out because you're worried about there's that stairway behind me when I'm backing out of that handicap spot. The other thing about it, if we were to grant permission for the time that, you know, the whole COVID time on a temporary basis, we would never be able to get the parking lot back entirely to ourselves.
I agree. It wouldn't happen.
No, it wouldn't, because once you open that crack, it just becomes a torrent.
And it's
So-
really, it's
go
really
on.
kind of village scraping the bottom of the barrel, because it's not like we have much of a parking lot to go after. They just want another 2 or 3 spots, and they really should pursue, you know, an opportunity. But it might cost them a little money, but you really ought to pursue what's across the street.
And
And if
I just, that would really be low if they threaten to stop plowing for us because of that. That would just really be low. Who cleans off the sidewalks in the front right now when it snows?
That's our groundskeeper, Isaro Reyes.
So he comes over
He
every
does
time
that.
it snows?
Yep. He does a good job with that.
Yeah, he certainly does. I mean, you know, if push came to shove, we'd say, well, you know, we'll just have our guy do the lot too.
Yeah,
If needs
Wanna-
must.
if we had to.
But yeah, Isaro does snow removal in the winter, as a lot of landscapers do in the area here, because there's not a lot to landscape when it's all
Right.
covered with snow. So
That's that's right.
an aside, sorry to change the subject here, but he has done a beautiful job this year on the grounds of the library. It has
Yes,
looked
yeah.
beautiful all season.
Yeah.
He was
yeah,
where he is.
the transformation year after year with him working on it has really been incredible.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now my sense from the conversation is that the answer is definitely no.
Yep.
The only question then would be that Drew had offered to attend a Building and Grounds Committee meeting and talk to the Building and Grounds Committee. Kathy and I had discussed that and figured that at minimum it would be better to for the B&G committee to discuss itself first. The committee sounds pretty certain of its decision, but just throwing that out there that Drew had offered. If there was a desire to have him attend
It
a
would be
future meeting.
It would just be a waste of time.
I think so too. And I think Drew would get an earful from
Yeah.
me, certainly. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Cal and Kathy would be right there too.
It would be the last time Drew would offer to come to one of our meetings.
Yeah, probably.
I am not noted for being mousy.
But, you know, Julian, I don't mean this sarcastically, pass along our suggestions, which are parking across the street and train station parking, which is exactly what was offered to the library when they tried to kind of take our parking away from us.
Yes. Yeah.
Those were, you know, that was from the village president, that suggestion.
So in other words, it was okay for the library personnel to have to hike back and forth, even in the rain or the snow.
Yeah.
But it isn't, it's not good enough for the customers of the businesses.
Yeah, and one thing the village, and this is just, the village doesn't plow the sidewalk between Bluffington's and Innovasi. They might do a little strip. They don't do the curbs. It really can get treacherous. And if they want people coming at night under the worst of circumstances anyway, they're gonna have to do something about that snow removal because that's downright dangerous.
Yes, it is. Because I
It's-
get my hair cut in
And
there
they have
somewhere, and
our
and
library.
it just scares me
Um,
to have to negotiate the curb. If I can, when I can find a place to park good enough, but to negotiate the curb when they don't clear the snow out from it is kind of scary.
it's actually dangerous. Yeah, it builds up. So anyway, that's my thought.
So Eric, do you want to deliver this message or should I?
I can pass it along.
Oh, gee,
Um,
thanks.
I have a poison pen if you want to write
Um,
it.
Unless you really want to, be the person that reaches out to Drew and communicates it, which would be fine. But otherwise, I was planning on just sending him a quick email.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
good enough.
We'll give them our best.
Will do. They've got
Tell them good luck.
they've got a lot that they're working on. I know that the village has a lot of concern right now as far as keeping the restaurants downtown viable over the winter. So
Yeah, yeah. And I understand, I do understand that it's just, it kind of blows my mind that they would come to us and ask that because we've got such limited space back there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
certainly not more than 3 or 4 spaces. That's not going to make or break,
No.
the business.
And we've already answered that. We've already rebuffed them before. Why do they keep coming back?
I don't know why they think it's so desirable. It's nobody at the library likes that parking lot. So
and
Well-
certainly over the years, including with previous boards, the claustrophobic nature and potential safety issues with that lot have been the main reasons for not making it a public space. I think it's a bit better now, but I know that the some of the vegetation there on that corner is also a bit enthusiastic
Yeah.
during the summer. So that's
Have
another
the-
point as well in terms of looking year round, that there are times in the year where it's a little bit of a challenge to see adequately both ways as you're pulling out.
Yeah.
And what's the name of our neighbors to the east? It starts with K.
Kluchka.
Kluchka. They might not actually welcome, later evening parking, exiting next to their home just for all those reasons. I mean, I don't know that address them as that becoming a public parking lot versus library parking.
That's true. That's very true. That's a good point.
Especially if people are over lubricated by the time they come back to get their cars.
Yeah. Yeah, the thought of someone backing into the spruce room is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Haven't you ever felt like that? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting down there and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah.
You don't feel like it's like you're gonna, at least I don't generally feel like I'm gonna go into the spruce room when I'm pulling out, but it definitely, when you're sitting down there and you're watching the cars back out, is definitely yeah.
Yeah.
You're kind of watching them back up, and you get acclimated to it after you've seen it for a few times. But yeah, the experience there, because the wheels are like right at eye level, and it feels like they're gonna go right over you.
Well, Eric, I don't know if you know this about me, but I broke my leg because a car backed up into me when I was pregnant with my 3rd child.
God,
And
Oh, Janie.
yeah, it was pretty ugly. So I am particularly sensitive about cars backing up. I mean, that was
Mhm.
33 years ago. I still, I mean, if I walk behind a car that is running, I make sure that if there's somebody sitting in the car, they see me before I walk behind the car. I am just that paranoid about it. So, yeah.
Made an impression, did it?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, try and be 7, 8 months pregnant and walk around it with cast and crutches. It
Well,
ain't
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, it feels a bit odd to say it about something, but that happened that many years ago. But I'm sorry, Janie.
Yeah. You know, after a point, Eric, all I could do was laugh because seriously, all through with the Thanksgiving and Chris, well, it happened the Saturday after Thanksgiving, but all through that holiday season, you know, when I'd run into people, they'd come up to me and look at me and say, Janie, I'm so sorry. And then they'd start laughing because I just looked so ridiculous and I would start laughing too. So, you know, it had its moments, but it wasn't all bad.
Good, that's for sure. Well,
Okay. So I will relay the message from the committee to Drew. Do we have any other items for discussion or consideration here with the Building and Grounds Committee?
I don't think so.
nothing for me.
Okay. Then I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I so move. Oops.
Well, I'll
All in
second.
favor?
Who
Aye.
first did and who second? Cal, did you?
Kathy moved and I seconded.
Okay.
And then everybody voted yes.
Aye.
Yes,
And it
indeed.
is
Yeah.
428.
That must be a record.
Not really. Not really. I've done a
No.
faster one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
One.
This is good, under a half hour.